Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to go through the learning outcome number 4 for the unit number 1, which is strategic human resource management. And we're going to go through how to plan effective human resource strategies, essentially. Sorry. So we're going to talk about the organization design, which is basically how, managers have an entire structure in the organization and how they create that structure so that to make sure that, they can operate in the most efficient and effective way and manner. Now, there are different factors that play an important role in the organization structure. So you have environmental factors that play a role. You have different, organization strategies. You have human resource strategies that determine the organization structure. There are different technological changes that are taking place because of which the organization structure might be, hampered as well. So, organization environment is quite easy to understand, the external changes that are happening and, different problems that are faced. That's the organization or the environment in which the organization operates. Whereas the strategy might be the organization's goals and objectives that they have set for themselves, and how they're looking at that. Technology might be that there are different changes that are happening. For example, AI is changing currently. So that's a technological change that's taking place in the environment, and how technology can make it, how technology can influence managers in making different organization changes or structures changes in the organization. Now, there can be different ways in which technology is measured as well. That is how much is used in the organization. So you have, new problems that you encountered that you're using new technology to. Then you have how your solutions or, how your problems are managed by using tactful technological changes. For example, if you need someone to be a note taker and make notes for your, just for your meeting, for example, then you have an AI software nowadays that helps you do that. So that's how you understand how managers can provide effective solutions to problems as well. And you have human resource managers coming in and providing proper jobs, making sure that your teams have a more flexible structure. You have, skilled workers that are joining the organization. So that's how HR plays a vital role as well. HR also makes sure that your managers look into different factors. So your managers look into the environmental, the strategic, technological factors that are taking place as well, while designing the organization structure eventually. There are different factors that managers play a role on as well. And then you see that the organization structure depends on the choices that managers make, or how the groups or tasks that they're individually assigned into, how, they function together in a group, and, the division that's done. And then also how, which people have the authority to get which tasks done, and how they coordinate that function amongst groups. So for example, if you have, the marketing team and the sales team working on one specific goal, maybe objective to basically increase sales by having a good marketing strategy in place. So how they get together, so how there is inter-division or cross-functional, tasks that they're working on as well. So how they look at dividing that amongst the organization, that plays an important role in the organizational environment as well. Then you have human resource people who are working specifically on looking after the design in which the jobs are designed. So you have jobs that are, there are jobs that are basically divided into specific tasks. So, or there might be jobs or new jobs that, they are making in the organization. So how do they make sure that they are correctly allocating those tasks as well? So that's how they come into picture, when they're designing the entire organization. They're making sure that, this specific job role that they're going to put in place is a fresh job role, is, they're completing, it's making sure that all of the tasks that are required to get fulfilled in this job role, that's happening. And therefore also they have an appropriate division of labor that's done. so that, workers are working effectively and there's efficient work being done. So that's how you divide it effectively eventually. Now you have job simplification, which is basically the process of reducing tasks or reducing the number of tasks each worker has to perform by simplifying them, or taking out the additional steps that's required. For example, if it's a production unit and you're producing, say, soaps, all right, so there might be someone who would be in charge of removing the soaps from the mold, someone in charge of picking the soaps and putting them on the other tray, someone in charge of wrapping the soaps, and then putting in boxes. So there might be various processes or various steps to the final end product. So how do you get that is looking at how you break the tasks down. So each worker can maybe remove the mold and keep it on the tray together in one go. So that's simplifying tasks or reducing the number of tasks that they have to do, so that eventually, there is job simplification. Now you have job enlargement and job enrichment as well. So job enlargement is basically you are giving different, you are basically, for example, if someone in the soap production unit, like I'm taking the example again, is in charge of removing the soaps from the mold, all right, and basically once he removes them from the mold, he's been doing that since the past 2-3 months, that's his only job. So workers might actually get bored of doing the same tasks again and again, so they might be given a change of job. So now he might be in charge of putting the final product in the boxes and not just looking at removing it from the molds. So that's how you look at job enlargement, basically giving them change in the tasks, or basically making sure that they aren't, tired or bored from their tasks by doing the same thing again and again. And job enrichment would be giving them additional responsibility. So apart from the job that they're already doing, you might be telling them, you know what, you might also look after the quality of the products. So that's them having the additional workload or additional responsibility that they already are doing over the job. So that might give them a sense of, they might feel that they are doing more than what they previously were doing. So that's how they get more responsibility in the task that they're already doing. Now you're looking at job enrichment, which means how you empower your workers to basically find better ways of doing the job. So you have people that are, they are using different experiments, finding new ways of bettering their jobs. You're encouraging the workers to develop new skills. You're also letting them, do what they want to do. So you have a autocratic leadership style when you're letting your workers perform the way they would want to perform. And you're also allowing workers to monitor and measure their own performance, so they know that where they are going wrong and how they can improve themselves. So that's job enrichment that you're looking at over there. Now I'm going to go through the job characteristics model, which basically explains that each job has specific characteristics and there are different psychological factors that play in place as well to basically in turn influence the outcome of that specific job. So you have a variety of skills, you have different tasks that you identify, you have to have autonomy of the task and you receive proper feedback. So that's one of the characteristics of basically doing that job. Whereas the psychological meaning behind it would be that basically having experiencing that, yeah, meaningful, I'm doing what tasks I'm doing are actually meaningful. That's how I should feel. I have experienced responsibility, so I should also experience responsibility for the outcomes that are following. And I should have more knowledge over, what's happening. And, because I have more authority, I also have more knowledge in terms of what my tasks are, how I need to do it, and, what are the results of my work, which in turn, the outcome should be that it's more motivation to the people, they perform better, they have higher satisfaction. So all of these tasks play a role in basically this outcome at the end. Now you have job characteristic model, which eventually explains that how you identify a specific task. You have, significance, you have autonomy, you have feedback. So, employer might use different skill sets that they already have, existing skill sets, to basically make sure that they're doing their tasks properly. So from the beginning to the end of the production process, how they're doing their tasks. Then they might also have, freedom to schedule their own tasks and carry them out. And how the worker gets direct information about how well the job is done. So you have different tasks that are going through that you're doing while you're looking at the job characteristic model as well. Then integrating mechanisms. So what happens in this is you have, as I mentioned previously, you have cross-functional teams. You have different teams basically, maybe working on a similar product. The same way you have, liaison roles, wherein you have, for example, the marketing manager and the research manager are brainstorming to come up with new ideas. So how people from different teams are coming together to basically work towards the business goals. Now you have different task forces. So maybe on one specific launch or new product launch or one specific, task, there are 3-4 teams working towards the same goal. And that's how cross-functional teams come into picture as well, wherein there are teams from different backgrounds coming together to work on one common goal. Now, you know that you're going to integrate the roles in the departments as well. So you're seeing how those roles are integrated, how senior members provide, cross-functional member with trainings, relevant information, and other divisions. So you're looking at various different factors that play a role as well, sorry. Now we're going to look at the organization culture again. So it says every organization has their own set of cultures and beliefs. They have their own specific norms, how they influence by each other, how they achieve their organization goals. So there are different ways in which they do that and how they achieve it eventually. Let me just scroll down a little, just bear with me a second. Yep. Again, we spoke about how different factors influence organization culture. This speaks about how under organization culture, what all influences the culture of the organization. So you have the ethics of the organization that are influencing the culture. You have the organization structure in place already. You have how, the relationship with employees is maintained. And you have the characteristics of, the organization members already in place as well. So there are different factors that play a role in the organization culture in the end. Now you have characteristics of organizational members. So you have the ultimate source of the organization culture, that is the people that make up the organization. And members basically, over time, they may have the ability to adapt and respond to changes in the environment. So the characteristics of the organization members in the organization changes as well. I'm quickly running through these slides because it's quite straightforward. And, there's not a lot of depth that we need to go into. So you have organization ethics as well, which again, in the table, it talks about how, every organization or every person in the organization might have a different belief, value, the different ways they follow. Now we're going to talk about ER or employee relationship, which is how different human resource policies can influence, how employees work or how employees are pushed towards, achieving the organization goals, and how attached the associates are to the different organizations. So as a simple policy, it can say that, the productivity levels can be checked in terms of how motivated associates are to basically perform in a specific job role. So that might be one of the reasons, how attached they are, and whether or not they will buy into the values and norms. So will they be happy with, the different organization values that have been put in place or not? So there are different, reasons that are played, or different factors that influence those decisions as well. Again, talking about these slides are a little repetitive, so just bear with me. Again, talking about the organization structure, we already spoke about this. Now there might be a flat organization structure or a tall organization structure. A tall organization structure would have more levels to the hierarchy levels. So you might have a CEO, then you will have a managerial, level wherein all of them are high level managers. Then you have senior level managers, lower level managers, normal assistant managers, and then employees. So there are many levels to the managerial or the structure of the organization. Whereas a flat structure might have just the director and maybe 50, 60 associates reporting to that director directly. So that's a flatter organization structure compared to the taller organization structure, wherein in the flatter organization structure, I believe that um, there would be more workload on the associate or basically the director of the company, because there are so many, or basically 40, 50 people reporting to him. So whatever questions they have while doing their task, in delegating task, everything, they are just going to the director or the CEO and asking those questions directly. And that might eventually, um, you know, have more pressure on that specific person in the end. Now you have strong adaptive versus weak and inert cultures. So an adaptive culture is basically you are adapting to the changes, that the growth in the organization that's happening. And you're making changes to your organization structure based on how well you're growing and the external factors as well. So you're adapting to the needs of the organization eventually. That is basically an adaptive organization culture. Whereas an inert culture is basically that, they are not led by, they're not, it's failing to motivate them. Associates are not inspired to work hard. There might be stagnation over the future. They're more likely or prone to failure because they don't enjoy doing their job or their task. That's why. So each organization culture might play a different role in, the end goal of the organization as well. Now, basically, the overall HR policy is based on a very simple decision. It determines or defines how the organization fulfills its social responsibilities for its associates. So they're seeing that how this specific policy would play an important role in the organization's end goals eventually. Then talking about the requirements of the HR policies as well. So basically the HR policies and procedures might require to ensure that, you know, the HR management is dealt, properly and in line with the values of the organizations. So they are keeping these strategies in place. So they know that if someone has, someone misconducts, for example, there are already plans in place and there are legal requirements that we might have to follow while, taking care or treating such people then. Now, the distinction between the HR policies and procedures. So a policy might be, some guidelines that the HR team uses when they reach an appropriate, a situation in the future, whereas a procedure might be a step-by-step, guidance in terms of, or a process in terms of how we deal with those issues. Like you have grievances, disciplinary capability, redundancies. Those would be the procedures that you're going to go through, whereas a policy would be, example would be a dress code policy is a policy, maternity policy is a policy. So these are some basic policies, whereas procedures would be grievances, how to deal with that if an associate comes up. You have disciplinary policy in place, wherein your procedure in place, sorry, wherein you're seeing if an associate is not able to perform well or not able to do, give the output compared to the, the job role, then what you do then. So various factors that play a role. Now, HR policies, there are different, okay, I'm just gonna go through this quickly. So there might be different policies that the HR covers up as well. So these are just some examples of various HR policies that they might cover. You have HR procedures, wherein, ways in which certain actions are covered, that, there are people, for example, the disciplinary procedure I explained, how you deal with matters that way and how to keep them in discipline. You're looking at capability of the associates as well, if they're even capable enough to doing their job properly or not. So there are various ways in which you can tackle your HR policies and procedures. Now, goals. So basically a goal is basically an objective or definition in terms of what someone has to accomplish or what someone has accomplished. So a goal or an objective defines what someone has already accomplished and how well they are doing that. So that would influence the people as well when they're performing, because they're pushing themselves to achieve these specific goals. Now, you already have goal setting that are defined. So you have the the role profile. You have someone already set in place that knows that what you need to fulfill for you to achieve this specific goal. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just pausing quickly for getting some water, basically. Hi, I'm back. So as I was saying, let me share my screen again. Sorry about that. So we were talking about how different goals are set, and because goals are set, there are different ways in which they are broken down as well. So you have a proper role profile wherein you have an expected set of outcomes that are required from an individual's job role. You have the key result areas wherein you have an element which talks about in this specific job role, there are KRAs that an associate needs to fulfill to basically make sure that he or she is doing that job correctly. You have key performance indicator wherein you see the results or the outcomes based and how you measure their performance as well. So you have a proper analysis in terms of how well you measure their performance. You have some competency requirements wherein you talk about different performance requirements in terms of the behaviors that they are giving out, the knowledge and skills that they're giving out, everything comes up. So competency requirements as well. Now you have a basis of goal setting. So you talk about how you need to set your goals, how you need to provide proper explanation in terms of, if you go back a little, you have to give them a proper explanation in terms of what their job profile is, what all targets, that areas they need to hit, and how they can be measured. They can be measured through KPIs, and how many competency requirements do they already have. So that would be a basis of goal setting for them eventually. Then we're going to talk about the different basic types of goals. So you have, a performance target and a standard performance. So performance target is you've been given a proper achievable target to basically get your goals done. Whereas a performance would be your standard that you're already setting in place for you to make sure that you're covering every bit of your job, and if you're doing that job up to that certain mark or not. So that will be the difference between performance target and the performance standard. Now, there are different other types of goals. You have, behavioral competency goals, which basically talks the kind of behavior that would require for getting that specific job role done properly. And you have learning goals. So basically, what all you can do to achieve those goals, include different ways of doing things, how, the individual needs to achieve certain objectives in his job role, and if he needs some extra L&D or basically learning and development opportunity to basically just brush up on his skills, then even that would be provided. Now, there are various different criteria that play a role on basically the end goals for associates. So these are some, different criteria for goals. Goals are measurable, trackable, challenging, should be achievable. They should be agreed on by both the manager and their associates. So many factors that play a role in basically deciding or determining goals. We have spoken about SMART goals in the previous learning outcomes as well, wherein we discussed that SMART stands for specific goals, which can be measurable. They're agreed or basically aligned to the business as well. Very realistic, so not unrealistic expectations, and also very time related, so they are trackable as well. And then goal setting. So the main requirements for goal setting would eventually be that, how do we know that this goal will be achieved? And also, you need to answer that, because of this goal or because of completing this is what you're going to do in the future. This is how you're going to achieve the rest as well. Then you have KPIs that you put in place, which are the key performance indicators. And you talk about the matrices or other sources of information that are used to indicate basically how you can measure key KPIs. So we're going through what we already went and how to define KPIs. You can basically define them as, in 1 week, how much can you achieve of this task? So that's you determining or defining the KPIs in place. And KPIs are also indicators as matrices. So they help to basically get the output. So you have the sales output, you have, productivity, cost per unit, all is determined by the KPI eventually. Now you have the qualitative key performance indicators, wherein you not just use matrices, but you also use qualitative KPIs in the form of, like a statement which defines the conditions that exist if the job is done well or not. Again, both slides are repeating the same thing. Just give me a second. Perfect. So I've spoken about key result areas, key performance indicators, and performance goals. So key result areas are areas in which the business is, doing well and performing well, and how they've been achieving their standards that are required and, the targets. Whereas KPIs are indicators that show you, how you're achieving your tasks. So for example, if you are achieving certain goals or not, your frequency rate at which you're doing your tasks. Then your performance goals are basically how you reduce the frequency rate by 10% in the next 12 months. So that would be one of your goals to basically perform well. You are making, your cost per unit is going down. That might be one of your production goals. So there might be different goals that you'll set based on your specific organization as well. Then you have strategic alignment of performance goals, wherein you are aligning your goals with the strategies that have set for the organization. So you are at par with the strategic goals. And you're also achieving strategic alignment of the goal. So you're basically seeing the KPIs, you're seeing the different strategies, and you're aligning that to your goals and making sure that your performance is based on those strategies that are set in the organization. You have strategic alignment of goals, how they are influenced by external factors. So you might have competition, you have market rates, customer feedback. You might be having so many different external factors that play a various role on the company's individual or end goal. You have also influenced by internal factors. You might have strategic plans, resources, core values, etc. Then you have goal alignment in specific areas. Again, it's quite repetitive that we've already spoken. We do align the goals with our organization goals. So, if in a corporate, you have defined what your goals are, what your functions are, basically when you're doing that goal, the department or team that, you are going to target on to making sure that your goals are in line with the organization structures and the strategic goals. And as an individual, what all you need to do or, push through to basically complete to achieve those specialized, specifically designed goals. Now, for aligning individual behaviors to corporate values, what happens here is that the necessary values are, your behavior is getting aligned with the values, and you might have to behave in a certain way because of the certain beliefs or values of a specific organization. So this is what individuals would be aware, and that's how they might have to align their behavior to basically make sure that, you know, you're aligning to that. And then how they define the knowledge and skills that's required for a specific job role as well, and how they see that the skill sets or how well they're performing already. Yeah, this says, you know, how knowledge and skill sets is basically decided. And then you identify different knowledge and skill sets that's required. So you look at the key result areas and make sure that, you know, you have answered these specific questions while you're also getting, you know, your job role done. So this is how we eventually see how, you know, goals are measured. Then you see the different criterias, or basically the different key result areas, KPIs, performance goals. And that's when you also ask these different, you know, questions that you might require in terms of carrying out the various skills in the organization. So this is quite it for this lecture right here. I hope all of these concepts were quite clear. If you have any doubt, please feel free to send me an email, or, you know, just ask them doubts in the next lecture as well. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.